Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
For those who didn't hear earlier, Pastor Pat is in New York officiating a wedding, so I'll be giving our sermon this morning. Breathe. It's Sunday morning. Everything's all good. We're here worshiping the Lord, so we can take a deep breath and just relax. In fact, let's just do that. Everyone take a deep breath in. Let it out. Feels good. That felt so good, let's do it again. Everyone take a deep breath in. Hold it. And let it out. It's refreshing and healthy. It's sort of like that feeling when the warm sunlight hits you in the face on an almost summer-like day like today. It's a great feeling of being alive. The feeling that it's great to be a human. And humans are wonderful things. We're also complex, we're multifaceted. We're not lifeless objects like rocks, or the altar, or Lois's cup of coffee. These things are all dead. They don't grow, they don't get a chance to change, or even for that matter, move on their own. They can't even breathe. And it's great to be human, though, because that means we're not a plant. Now, obviously, fruits and vegetables are able to grow and change and die, sort of like we do. But as a human, we still do things that they can't. We get to use our senses. We see things, hear things, smell things, taste them, and touch them. Plants just don't have that ability. We build and develop our friendships and the relationships with one another. Fruits and vegetables, well, that's not exactly a relationship kind of thing there. That's the meaning of the term couch potato. The only plants I know that actually do have body parts are actually potatoes and corn. Because they have eyes and ears. Okay, bad joke, I'm sorry. Alright, really though, plants don't have lungs or any other physical body part that's human, that humans actually do have, we use to help us breathe the clean, fresh air. But if you think about it, we're really not the only things on this earth that have lungs and do all the stuff that I've mentioned, like seeing and hearing things. Animals have that ability too. They grow, they die, they even reproduce just like we humans do. Well, sorta. Animals can even breathe like we do. Sorta. Humans are different than all other animals because we have three things that they typically don't. We have intellect, will, and freedom. We have the ability to use our intelligence to understand things. We have the ability to use our free will and act upon those things that we understand. And we have the freedom to choose how we should act. All animals, including humans, have instincts and use them to live a successful life. We, unlike the animals, have the capacity to live our lives purposefully. We can shape our own destinies based on the decisions that we make. And it's through these decisions, whether they're wise choices or not so wise choices, that we develop ourselves to be fully human. By being human, not only are the possibilities there for us to be happy and successful, but so are the limitations. For example, people have a desire to be satisfied and self-fulfilled. We're always seeking out those desires. We continue to dream of better things, and as we should. Dream big, right? The limitations slide in when the restrictions start to impose on those hopes and our dreams. And that makes us frustrated and continually unsatisfied. Let's face it, we're a self-centered culture. The unhappy and the least fulfilled people will turn inward and think only about their own desires and their own importance. They forget all about their others that are all around them. Those that are discontented with themselves will ignore everyone else and their needs and then look only on their own happiness. And it's when we do these things that we are the most unhappy and unfulfilled. This is the biggest obstacle for becoming fully human. One of the measures of being fully human involves complete self-giving. Giving oneself totally is the highest personal and creative act a person can accomplish. By meeting the needs that are outside of themselves, humans begin to meet their full potential. When a person directs their own self-giving, it shows where the person's life is focused. It's the focus of a person's life that either limits or expands the meaning of their life. Now, there's a process of becoming fully human, and it's a 5-step process. And it starts with the first one, which is choosing a goal. Everyone has goals, and it's ours to determine what those goals are and whether we should pursue them or not. The next step is gaining conviction for that goal. The goals we choose to pursue must have worthiness that compels us to act in a certain way. The third step is to let the goal fulfill their aspirations. We need to make our goals attractive and feasible so that we want to actually achieve them and that we have to achieve them. And it's these aspirations that lead us to the fourth step, which is allowing the goal to set the criteria for their actions. The fifth one is have the achieving of the goal become a way of life. It encompasses all that we do, all that we are, and all that we need to wish to become. We live, drink, and eat to achieve the goal. And in the end, a goal will transform people as long as they pursue it. So what does having a goal have to do with having an ideal? Which is the topic of my talk today, is ideal. First, a definition. An ideal is the center core of our goals. It's the combination of preferences, goals, and objectives. An ideal sums up what for each human is their happiness, their life goal. It's the combination of ambitions, aspirations, and passion that drives us. An ideal has two elements that must be present, or it's not an ideal. It must have a vision and a motivation. The vision gives an ideal a frame, a skeleton, a structure that has it all held together. Think of the vision as a car, both inside and out. The motivation is what gives the ideal the power and the drive to go forward. That means that the motivation then becomes the gas that goes through the engine and takes the car to a destination. But we also have to be realistic. At one time in our life, we've all had that car that didn't run so well. It might have had an oil leak, or it was simply running out of gas all the time, and maybe just barely was puttering along. Or it's possible that it was just rusty. It was falling apart at the joints and making it shake and rattle and roll down the street. It still worked, and at least it kind of moved along, but it was slow and sluggish. And obviously, if it was rusted, it wasn't so pretty. Well, life is that way too. We all have days that rattle us. We all lose sight of what holds us together, which is our vision. And we forget about what keeps us moving forward, our motivation. And although we lose that sight temporarily, or forget about what it is that motivates us, that doesn't mean that the ideal isn't still there. Our ideal is always still there. There are specific qualities that make an ideal authentic. An ideal is capable of satisfying a person's every need because it is vital. An ideal gives a person a sharper sense of self-identity. It helps us know who we are. It gives a person greater self-assurance and tells us where we stand. And an ideal gives a person clear self-direction. It tells us that we know what we want. If our ideal is not on our own terms, if it looks good to the rest of the world, but but doesn't feel good in our own heart, then it's not an ideal at all. An ideal is complete. When an ideal is complete, it has definable goals that fulfill our present and our future needs. These goals inspire us to reach out and give of ourselves. These goals also challenge us to live to our fullest potential, because an authentic ideal leads to a meaningful life. It gives us direction, and it causes us to do things not by instinct like an animal, but through conviction like a human. An ideal must be attainable. It can't be so lofty that it isn't feasible to even come close to achieving. Having an ideal like that will only lead to disappointment and possibly have a truly negative effect. Everyone has an ideal. Just by being a human, everyone has one or more ideal. Even young children have an ideal. Obviously, because of that, a person's ideal changes throughout their life. As a child, for myself, I loved Matchbox cars. I could never have had too many of them. I played with them all the time. In fact, my ideal at that time was to have the most number of Matchbox cars in the neighborhood. Well, then I became a teenager, and my ideal changed. Because at that time, I really got into sports. I loved football, I loved track, I even kind of liked baseball. So my ideal was to be the best athlete I could during high school. Then I reached my 20s, and I was out of college finally. And my ideal was to make use of the education that I received. I actually had that degree, so I focused on doing what it took to use that degree. Then in my 30s, I knew it was time to look for the love of my life, and I finally found Beth. And I knew that a life with her was exactly what I wanted. And now I'm in my 40s. My goals and my ideal revolve around my family, and especially my kids. I can only imagine what my ideal will be as I grow older. One thing for sure is that my ideal is my strongest motivator. My strongest motivator for my greatest source of joy when it's satisfied. So tell me, what is your ideal? It's very important to know what your own true ideal in life is. Whether a clear knowledge and understanding of your ideal, without a clear knowledge and understanding of your ideal, you may subject yourself to an aimless and frustrating and discouraging journey throughout life. In essence, you stop breathing. Don't stop breathing. You need to discover your ideal so that you can keep breathing. And if you want to truly breathe, and I mean really breathe, uncover your true ideal.